If help and salvation are to come, they can only come from the children, for the children are the makers of men. Now, we all know how this could be translated in the form of hours of homework, standardized test scores, or even more literally, a heavy, overweight backpack. For the first time, children as young as 5 are experiencing acute to chronic back pain. Now, we're lucky because these words came from Maria Montessori, who developed a revolutionary pedagogy over 100 years ago. Now, I know there's a consensus here that our education system could have been a little bit better growing up, or after all this time, we hope that something has changed for the better. No longer are we in the dark or ignorant at the idea that the most important years of a human being's life is from birth until 6. That these are our formative years. And ultimately, how we developed as a child what has brought us here today. Remember when we were 4 and superhuman powers were at our disposal, where we felt like we were in control and that bruised knees and digging for ants was a rite of passage, and that every problem that we solved on our own was an affirmation that the world wanted us to succeed. At 15, we juggled SAT prep classes and also drum lessons. And our dreams of what we wanted to be when we grew up were now being filtered by the reality that we had to choose an occupation urgently. And you know those superhuman powers I was talking about? Well, they can only be seen by our closest friends. At 25, we were so close we can taste our successes and failures, and that we traded in our hours of sleep for a recognition of a great work ethic. A couple years ago, this boy, now grown man, came to me with his 4-year-old daughter, and he said, "Is this a place where my daughter would never be compared, would never be bullied, and that her teachers would lift her up with her love of nature and art, that they would never hold her back from her full potential?" With eyes beginning to well up, he said that I really want my girl to learn how to be strong enough to not lose the motivation to keep loving what she loves about herself. Now, does this exist? Can it work? And I'm telling you, yes, it can. But the key word here is motivation. I ask you, the audience, what has motivated you to come here today? Or more importantly, what motivates you every day to wake up and do what you do? I'd like for you guys to meditate on this for a second. I know that my motivation began 13 years ago when I walked into a Montessori school. At first, trust me, it was disbelief. I mean, the academic level that these children were able to show, but not only that, the social and emotional skills that were practiced so effortlessly, and that this was an environment where art and science had the same caliber of importance as math and language. Maria Montessori was an Italian physician and educator. She emphasized the human potential. She developed multisensorial, self-correcting materials that were so successful at teaching all areas of academics, as well as developing fine and gross motor skills. Success of her methodology have withstood the test of time, of cultures, and even continents for over a century. In the Montessori early childhood classroom, there are children aged 2.5 to 6 years of age, working together in harmony. And mentorship and leadership, these things are cultivated daily as the older children teach the younger children. They're not segregated by age or gender or even skill level. They're working together naturally. And the younger children, they're inspired. They're not intimidated to work and be like those older peers. Teachers' structure appropriateness. Remember yesterday Colin Powell was speaking about that structure? Well, the teachers, they role model how all students and teachers work in the environment. They follow and they guide to meet each individual's strengths as well as meeting each individual's needs, instead of as authoritative figures who are there to please or even fear. Unfortunately, our public educational environment has been a template to our adult working environments over the years. But look here. Notice the environment here. You notice that everything's at their own reach. You notice there's no adult desks, adult chairs. No, they're not hidden. There are areas of subject by area of what inspires them. Furniture, even layout of the furniture is laid out. So there's opportunity. So students are able to work in groups, in pairs, and even independently. Materials in the classroom in each area are in sequence of order. Also, materials are laid out on beautiful trays and rugs to promote visually responsibility and order in the classroom. Notice there's no ABC manuscript along the walls. No bulletin boards, sticker completion charts. No, you don't see any of that, right? And you notice that everything's beautiful and clean and orderly. If your child is this tall, and we all know, right, that children learn best kinesthetically, why would we plaster things all over the wall at adult eye level? These children, our leaders of tomorrow, are encouraged to talk with each other, to debate and resolve problems ethically and appropriately. They are there to be aware and share their strengths, as well as being confident enough to reach out and ask for help from their peers. Montessori students, they're self-assured, they're altruistic, they're powerhouse problem solvers. They're encouraged to ask questions and think outside the box instead of memorizing and regurgitating facts that are placed in front of them. Now, a key element in fostering this love of learning is what we like to call an uninterrupted work cycle, where the day's not chopped up into, let's say, an art time or a Spanish time or even a reading time. Those things are then integrated within the curriculum of the classroom. And instead, these children are able and allow the developmental freedom to build and strengthen their ability to focus and concentrate on one area of study as long as they want. Have you ever witnessed a young child diligently working on a drawing or a puzzle, right? And maybe it was dinner time, or you had to go somewhere, so you had to pull that child away from what they were working on. What's the natural response? We all know. Resistance, right? Or even worse, a tantrum. Why? Is it because that child is selfish or irrational? No. That child was just expressing something intrinsic that is holding their attention and also fostering that love of learning, that is developing their self-worth. But every time you chop up their concentration and take them away from what they love, it is conditioning them to shorten their attention span. Or even worse, emotionally, you're telling them that their time and what they love, that's developing their self-confidence is not that important. So, how does a child that can read at age 4, that can add complex numbers, that knows all the states of the country, that can speak a little conversational Japanese, not be pressured into academics? Well, the answer is actually quite simple. Motivation begins with self-satisfaction. How we as educators shape and develop this at an early age, they are able to bring it onward into their adult lives. Montessori students, they don't take tests, let alone fill out dittos. Large amounts of praise, stickers, and other extrinsic incentives don't exist in the Montessori classroom. There's no pressure. There's no competition. You see, our number one priority is their social and emotional well-being. If you foster a genuinely happy, well-adjusted child, they can only exude self-esteem. There are 21,000 Montessori schools worldwide, roughly 4,000 Montessori schools in the US alone, including Meadows Montessori, where I'm the director of education. Now, you might have heard of some of Montessori's alumni. Larry Page and Sergey Brin of Google, Jeff Bezos of Amazon, Katharine Graham, former owner and editor of the Washington Post, Julia Child, and yes, even Sean P. Diddy Combs, hip-hop mogul and entrepreneur. I'd also like to add to this list my best friend, Alicia Salipaz, who is a filmmaker and just recently documented Jose Andres for World Central Kitchen in Haiti. Oh, and by the way, Jose Andres, he happened to enroll his daughters into Montessori school as well. You know, I speak for my colleagues all over the world. I speak for them as they're tucked away in church basements or in rural parts of Africa. They're all over the world, but they're hidden and they're quiet. And generation after generation, we pass that torch of Montessori's philosophy. This is the story of the hundreds of students that have inspired me over the course of 13 years. They not only have taught me, but remind me daily that limitations are taught and that we can still be as brave and powerful as we once were as children. Thank you.